Why are you doing that up, Josh?
Okay, our first poem is Spring is Like a Perhaps Hand by E. Cummins. I'm going to read it after we do a visual analysis. Look at it. What do we see?
Variation.
Rarely capitalization.
Okay, let's go individually. Joanna, what do you see?
There's not very much capitalization or punctuation.
Okay, not much capitalization or punctuation. Good. Someone, I saw a lot of this. What's this mean? Stanzas vary in size. Bree. The lines vary in length. So if I said, does this look like a traditional poem to begin with?
No.
No, in fact, this is missing. Does anything rhyme? Hand, carefully, arranging, while, stare, placing, strange. Do any of those rhyme? Arranging, placing. Yeah. Okay, so do you think there's a rhyme scheme here? Okay, how about syllables? Do we think people stare is the same as a window into which people look while? No. Okay. So, and once again, also knowing that this is E. Cummins, we can immediately say what? This is going to be an organic poem. All right, I will read. Tell me what you hear or see. Spring is like a perhaps hand, which comes carefully out of nowhere, arranging a window into which people look while people stare, arranging and changing, placing carefully there, a strange thing and a known thing here, and changing everything carefully. Spring is like a perhaps hand in a window, carefully, to and fro, moving new and old things while people stare carefully, moving a perhaps fraction of a flower here, placing an inch of air there, and without breaking anything. Okay. How fluidly do those sentences like run together? Okay. What other things does the author use in order to make you pause? Parentheses, called parenthetical interruption. Okay? So basically it means they use parentheses to interrupt stuff. Okay? To pause you. Okay, and line 5, 6, 7, 8 says there's a strange thing and a known thing here, and pause, changing everything carefully. Like that's a horrible place to break up a sentence, and yet he does it on purpose in order to mess with you. Good? Okay, what do you see for capitalized words? Nowhere. Okay. Are those all at the beginning of sentences?
No.
In fact, how many sentences are there? One big long run-on sentence. It's like a free flow of ideas. There's also a comma. What are those pauses in lines of poetry called? What of your vocabulary? Good job. It starts with a C. It's caesura. Okay, that's a pause in a line of poetry. It can be done by commas, parentheses, other punctuation, ellipses, dots. Okay. All right, now let's get into what this poem is actually talking about. Spring and changing. Good. Let's stop there. It's about spring and changing. Good? Okay, then if I had to sum it up in like 2 words, spring, changing. Perfect. Okay, now we've got to go through and say what words in here lead us to believe that.
Is changing.
Where's the word changing?
Arranging and changing.
Changing everything carefully.
Okay. All right. So let me start, and I'm going to stop at some places. You tell me what's happening. Spring is like a perhaps hand. Okay. You understand what spring is. Perhaps hand's a little confusing. Good. Which comes carefully out of nowhere. Capitalize. When I capitalize a random word, what am I doing to it? Adding emphasis. Okay. What happens if I capitalize the word him or he? He saved me from the car accident. It's God. Okay, it's adding some omnipotent force to it. It doesn't have to be like the Judeo-Christian God. It can be any type of deity that like you believe in. But when you add a random capital letter to something, it adds emphasis. It also randomly like gives it some type of like super spiritual power. Okay, so it says, so if I ask you right now, where's spring come from? So I heard a scientific, I heard literally out of the book it says no, out of the poem it says nowhere. Okay, but if I said, I want you to point to me where does spring come from? Well, that was creepy and in sync. You all did this at the same time. Okay, so, all right, I'm gonna keep going, then there's another point here. Okay, which comes carefully out of nowhere, arranging a window into which people look while people stare, arranging and changing and placing carefully, there's a strange thing and a known thing here, and changing everything carefully. All right, so the metaphor that they're using is spring is this hand that moves stuff, okay? The window, if you were sitting at a window looking out the window, like we went out there right now, we all sit at the window. Okay, right now we don't see spring, right? We see 12 feet of snow, right? With more snow on the way. Okay? If I told you, I want you to sit here until you see spring, I put like one of those buttons right here, and I'm like, hit this button when you see spring. Okay, now you would sit there, and there'd be some snow, there'd be some rain, it'd get hot one day, it'd start to melt, and then you'd be like, oh, wait, oh, no, and then it gets warm, it gets cold again, and you're sitting there, and I come back in June, and I'm like, why have you hit the button? You're like, oh crap, it's now summer. Why would it be hard to know exactly when to hit that button?
Spring is weird. It's a transition.
Kind of like fall.
Fall is one of the states.
They're both transitional
Yeah.
seasons from like a big.
Okay, I'm hearing things like it's a transition. Okay, but when would you hit the button? You're sitting there looking out a window,
When it's wet out.
Oh my God.
so you're going to use the calendar.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this year it could still be 3 feet of snow out there.
Hey, don't
Yes.
talk like
Like
that.
probably frustrating when there's like maybe flowers on the ground, like those little.
Okay, what type of flowers?
Dandelion.
Dandelions.
So you're going to wait for a dandelion to come up?
Like a
Then
bunch
it's
Maybe
spring.
like maybe at least like a field of it outside or something.
Sometimes
The
there's
grass
vines
gets
and
green.
snow.
Do you guys get my point?
Yes.
Like if I said, tell me when that first leaf's on a tree, you could sit there staring for weeks, folks. And by the time you finally, and somebody walk by and go, wait, there's a leaf. You'd be like, what? I've been waiting here for weeks for this leaf. Like, you can't see it grow, okay? Like, it's sitting there watching the grass grow is an expression, okay? Because if you sat there and watched the grass grow, it would never grow. Watching a boiling pot, like if you sit there and stare at a boiling pot, like it takes forever. If you turn the pot on boil and you leave the room and you come back in, also, oh, it's boiling, it's good, right? It's that same type of description. So this poem is talking about, like, you've got this hand that is running without legs, okay? Going around changing things, okay? Slowly. Can you see those changes occurring? No. Okay, where does this hand come from? I don't know, somewhere magical. Like all of a sudden one day there's a leaf and then the grass gets green all of a sudden. And then there's a robin. Okay. Line 10 of the third stanza starts with the repetition of spring is like a perhaps hand in a window. Okay? Hand is capitalized. Carefully to and fro, moving new and old things, while people stare carefully, moving a perhaps fraction of a flower here, placing an inch of air there, and without breaking anything. How much is an inch of air?
Not a lot.
Can you measure air in inches? No. You can volume, molecular composition, but you can't measure it in, like, take a tape measure. There's about 1.5 feet air. We're good. Okay, that doesn't work, right? Okay, so now what is the author trying to say? Okay, where is this great power, and can you point at it? Okay, and once again, this doesn't have to be religious. This can just be like Mother Nature. Like, when does she put spring into effect? Like, it doesn't, you don't know when it occurs. Okay, it just happens, right? One day you go outside, you're like, woo, I'm gonna go put on shorts. It's nice out now. It will not be tomorrow. It will not be.
You sure?
9 feet of snow, we're all gonna die.
Well, I'll go outside.